Right, so tonight's planting is yet again coming in two parts, and part one of that is going to be a tree that I've gone back and forth on a little bit. So this is Callistemon, which is one of the bottlebrush trees, which are an Australian group of myrtles related to the tea trees. Now, as far as I know, they do not produce any edible products. They might, being related to things like tea tree, have some traditional medical applications, but I won't be using it for that. The only thing I'm likely to be using it for is attracting in pollinators, and the fact that they tend to have very fissured bark, which is very good for a lot of our orchids to seed on. We do have a few endangered orchids around, so it's quite nice to give them things to seed on and grow on. One of the reasons I've gone back and forth on this a little bit is because we have a lot of myrtles already in the shape of things like guavas, in the shape of things like Suriname cherries, and the waterberries, which are all producers of an edible fruit, as well as being very good for pollinators. So I did go back and forth on this, but on the other hand, I am planting this in an area where I do not currently have any myrtles, because when I think about it, I have a lot of trees, and also this is quite a resinous one, and resinous myrtles tend to have quite different sort of chemical makeups to a lot of the non-resinous ones. They're also generally more flammable, which does create problems in and of itself, but this isn't an area that is likely to be exposed to fire at all, because it's quite a long way into the property, where there's other things in between which would stop or slow the fire well before it would get to this. But this is going to be going in near my Cydonia, which is the quince, and it's not going to be getting a succulent ground cover because there is a patch of Plecthanthus neochilus growing here, which is a leftover from when I tried to use that as a ground cover in a lot of the dry areas, and it really didn't take in many of them, but this one has survived, so it's going to be getting a friend in the shape of the Callistemon, and it's also going to be getting a little bit of a succulent thicket around it in the form of some Aloe arborescens. For part two of tonight's planting, we're going to be staying with Australian trees and going with Carpentaria acuminata. This is the slender palm. We have planted quite a few of these, and this one is actually going in a sort of nod to something I've done before with planting. So we're going right next to where there used to be a banana tree, and having thought that it was dead, there's actually a little shoot coming back up, and that should be cause for celebration. But this banana tree was one of a group of Cavendish type bananas, which all the rest died when some bunchy top virus got introduced with a plantain that I planted. And I thought this one had that too. This one didn't show any signs of bunchy top, but it did die. Now that might equally be because I went away and it wasn't watered while I was away. But just in case it had bunchy top, I want to create an inhospitable environment for that to spread. So bunchy top is usually spread by sap-sucking insects, and those sap-sucking insects will feed on a lot of the zingiberales, which include the gingers and the bananas and the strelitzias. So if I can put something that is not within that group close by, that will create a barrier to those bugs. But if I put closer still to the banana tree, I'm going to put the first companion plant that I'm going to be putting with this Carpentaria, which is the spiral ginger, which is related enough to host the sapsuckers, but not related enough to host the disease. So that should hopefully create a nice little extra barrier if the disease is still present. And on the other side, I'm going to be planting some aglaonemia. So if the sap-sucking insects do try and move through, because they're not very bright and they tend to suck on the first thing that they land on, they will suck on aglaonemia, and they will find out that aroids are really not suitable hosts for things that usually live on zingiberales. So basically I'm creating a sort of push and pull system here to try and make sure that if there is still some virus in what's left of this banana tree and it insists on trying to come back to life, then it doesn't spread. And this Carpentaria, if the banana tree is healthy, will provide a nice little bit of a windbreak, keep the leaves from breaking too much in the wind, and also, yeah, keep a little bit more shelter here, because one of the things that this banana tree did suffer long before the bunchy top got in, which is why I think it might not have been infected, is that it did tend to suffer a lot of sunburn because it's in a relatively exposed spot as far as the Cavendish types that I planted. And that should be everything for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and if you haven't enjoyed it, thank you for watching anyway. Please tune in again tomorrow, because I will be planting something else. Probably only one thing, actually, because I believe I've caught up. It is day 273 of the year today, and this should be 272 and 273 plantings in order. So we're all caught up. Yay!